All right, welcome to the Podcast Engineering Show. My name is Chris Curran. I'm happy you're here. I think this is going to be an awesome episode with a lot of good information in it. Of course, in this episode, I'm going to cover a bunch of the daily Goody blog posts that I publish every day on the website, podcastengineeringschool.com. If you want to receive those little mini daily goodies in your email, you can receive them every day, or you can receive a weekly roundup, which is pretty cool. So you can sign up at the website. So today, in this episode, we're going to cover about 10 or 12 of these daily goodies, and it should be fun and very informative. And of course, I have my new announcer guy who arrives here in a spaceship from another planet. He's going to come here and give the announcements. And I don't have a name for him yet. Oh, here he comes. Yeah, I don't have a name for him yet, but he's a cool dude. You know, he drives up. You can hear his spaceship right now, and then he parks, and then he gets out, and yeah, here he comes. And he gives the announcements, and then he just leaves. Would you be quiet already? Oh, well, excuse me. The start date for the next Podcast Engineering School will be January 14th, 2020. The Podcasters Lounge. Tune in live every Wednesday evening from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Excuse me. Which is 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Lounge with your podcast friends and fans. Whoever is your best friend who podcasts, please share this show with them today. Tell them, hey, you should check out the Podcast Engineering Show. All right, come on, Larry. Let's blow this taco stand.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Punarmilāma. Wow. Well, okay. I mean, I hired the guy, but now he's sort of taken over, and he's taking on a personality. And of course, I have my sidekick, Barry, and he has his sidekick, Larry. Right? Wow. What is he going to start his own YouTube channel soon? All right, well, let's get on to the daily goodies. The first one I'm going to cover is from July 19th. Onboarding new clients. Okay, so if you have a podcast editing business or a production business, you know, you're going to find a new client, or they're going to find you, and they're going to say, yes, let's work together. And then you're going to have to onboard them. But the process of onboarding them is actually very important, and you can make mistakes in the onboarding process that will come back to haunt you later. In my experience, it's best if you're clear on the scope of work. What exactly will you be doing for the client, and what specifically will you not be doing for them? Very important to even write that in the contract, what you will not be doing for them, right? I do that. If you're managing the launch of their show, be very clear on what information and assets you need from them, as well as how long it will take for the trailer or episode 1 to be publicly available in all the directories, etc., etc. Website integration, you have to be clear on make sure you cover how they're going to post their episodes on their website, so you can, advise them on best practices, or, provide them with the player embed code, etc. Turnaround time, how quickly can they expect you to produce an episode after receiving the audio files, right? You got to be clear on the turnaround time. And of course, the length of the agreement or contract, how many episodes over how long a period of time, and of course, the payment terms. Anyway, you can see there's a lot there, and this is not an exhaustive list of onboarding considerations. These are just a few ideas for anyone who's sort of getting started to build off of. Okay, next daily goodie. A related audio thought about video production. One great benefit of learning how to produce good audio is that any videos you produce will have really good audio, which is so important. When it comes to video, George Lucas said, sound is half the picture. Yeah, I mean, these filmmakers understand that sound is half the picture. It really is that important. Yeah. All right, next daily goodie, phantom power. Phantom power is, well, I'm going to sort of summarize briefly, but condenser microphones, they need a little bit of a power supply to function. So phantom power is that power. So a lot of mixers or audio interfaces will provide phantom power, which runs through the mic cable into the microphone, and that enables the condenser microphone to be on, basically, to be active, and so it can, change the changes in air pressure going through the air and change that into an electrical signal. So phantom power is required for condenser microphones, not for dynamic mics. So if you're ever going to buy a mixer, even if you buy a little cheap mixer, you should try to make sure that the mixer has or can supply phantom power to microphones. And also, I heard Bandrew talking about this on his podcastage show, that some mixers, they only offer 15 volts of phantom power, but 48 volts of phantom power is the standard. A lot of mics require 48 volts. So make sure if you're going to buy anything, make sure that it delivers 48 volts of phantom power. Some mixers, these little cheap mixers that deliver 15 volts, like I don't even know if that would power a real condenser microphone. So I don't know. I would say don't even mess around with that. I mean, you can always buy a cheap mixer if you need one, but just be aware that when you buy cheap mixers, there's like a bunch of little things that, can tie your hands later that you don't think about. So, okay, next daily goodie, dust in your studio. There are a few things you can do to keep your studio and equipment free from dust accumulation. Well, number one, you can cover the equipment when you're not using them. So I do that. I cover my iMac Pro computer with the little cover that came with it. I cover my Mix Pre 6 with it's actually like an old, it's not that old. It's like a napkin. When you go to an expensive restaurant and you get napkins that are actually made of like, they're not paper. They're actually like material, and I can't think of the word. Anyway, like they're made of, what are they made of? Oh my God, I'm struggling here. Cloth. Okay, cloth. And so I have an old cloth not old, but I have a cloth napkin that I drape over my Mix Pre 6. And of course on my microphone, I created this little cover to go over my microphone as well. Covering your mic, especially like I'm using an RE20, which has all the holes on the sides to absorb sound from the sides and stuff, to then phase cancel it to create the cardioid pattern. Those can get filled with dust, especially a RE20. So anyway, it's good to cover your equipment and your mics. And one thing I use is a Swiffer. Swiffer makes these little things that attract dust. So like if there's a desktop, like a desk, and there's dust on it, these Swiffers, like you just wipe the desk down and it like, there's like an electrical charge in the Swiffer and it attracts the dust. So I use those Swiffers to like wipe down my, my speakers, my computer, anything really in my studio, because dust like sticks to it and it cleans it up nice. So, and I know Swiffer, they make a bunch of stuff. They make like wet Swiffers too, but I'm not talking about that one. Okay, next one. Daily goodie. Saturation knob from SoftTube. It's a free plugin. It's a free plugin from SoftTube that it's called Saturation Knob, and it models output distortion that can use to warm up vocals and a lot more. So saturation, I've talked about it on these daily goodies before, but it's sort of like mild distortion, but that actually sounds good, and it's so mild that it doesn't sound like distortion. It just, if you use it gently, it has an effect like using old analog tape kind of thing. So I encourage people to try it, to mess around with it, just for your own good. You might not like it. You might not use it. A lot of people, especially in podcast production, almost no one uses any saturation, but I do. And anyway, this plugin is a free one. Of course, I think you have to install it. And so I actually downloaded it and installed it, but then I used it a few times and it was okay. But then for some reason, I don't know, like the plugin installation, program or app that you have to use, it was like, I don't know if there was a problem or what, but I just removed it because I like to keep my computer as uncluttered as possible, and I wasn't really using that plugin anyway, so I just removed it and removed the installer plugin, the app or whatever. So I just decided to keep my computer a little cleaner. more uncluttered, I guess you could say. But you've all heard me talk about the Sheps Omni-channel. That's a plugin from Waves that actually has saturation in it as well. I do use that saturation on almost every voice I process. And that Sheps Omni-channel is a great plugin for many reasons. It has 2 de-essers, has EQ, compression, filters, limiter. It's really awesome. So anyway, next one. The positioning of your guest's headset microphone. All right, now if you have a guest, usually, connecting online, and they're usually going to have this USB headset. And of course, when I say headset, I mean headset, not earbuds. Earbuds are earbuds. A headset is a headset. A headset fits over your head like headphones, and then it has like a little boom arm coming off of one ear, and then at the end of that boom arm is a microphone that can sit right in front of your mouth, right? That's a headset. So if you're recording a guest who's using a headset, the positioning of that microphone is actually really important. A lot of times if they put it right in front of their mouth, they're going to catch a lot of plosives, or you're going to hear a lot of plosives that are nasty. And not just nasty, it's actually going to distort the sound a little bit, which you can't really fix later. If it was just regular plosives, you could remove them later with some software. But if it's like so nasty that it like distorts the sound, that's almost impossible to remove later. So what you got to do, guests with headsets, you got to have them just move that microphone around a little bit so it's not catching the plosives really hard, and also not, catching them breathing very hard. Because a lot of times if they put the mic like right under their nose, like you'll hear people breathe, it'll be so loud, it'll be nasty and disgusting. Anyway, you just position that mic. A lot of times you can just push it up like 1 inch, sort of like even with their nose, or even push it down, like sort of like not going under their chin, but just going down a little bit. And that'll avoid the plosives and the breathing and all that. So, and then of course the important thing is once you get them to put that mic in the correct place, in the best optimal place, you have to tell them, don't touch your headset at all. Literally don't touch it for the rest of this whole time. Don't touch it. Don't adjust it. Don't move it. Don't even touch it. Literally don't touch it. And if you stress it to them that way, then they won't touch it and everything will be fine. Okay, next daily goodie. Your headphone volume when recording. All right, well, a lot of amateur audio recording folks, they love to hear their own voice in their own headphones, and they crank the volume up so loud. And even when they have guests over the internet, let's say, they crank the volume so loud in their headphones. Here's the thing. You don't need to crank your headphones. You should put your headphones about as loud, just loud enough so you can hear everything okay. Because when you crank your headphones really loud, they bleed through into your microphone. And that can cause some feedback and other problems, some bleed. So you don't want to do that. So I know everyone loves to hear their own voice and they want to be loud and, ooh, it sounds good, man. But no, keep your headphone volume low. It just helps in every way that you can think of. It just avoids some key problems that I mentioned earlier, the feedback and the bleed. So that's it. Of course, when you're sound checking things, when you're trying to listen and you need to turn it up to hear something more clearly, that's one thing. But turn it up and listen, carefully and make your adjustments, but then turn your headphone volumes back down. Right? So you get the idea. I'm skipping through on the website. All right, then there's one of the previous Daily Goody episodes. All right, next one. The Vocal Rider from Waves. Well, this is one of my favorite plugins. It literally automatically rides the volume of a person's voice. You set a target level, and then if the person gets loud, it'll just bring their voice down a little bit. And if the person gets really quiet, it'll push their voice up. It's really great. It sort of does the same thing as a compressor, especially when you zoom out from a philosophical level. It does the same thing as a compressor. It reduces the dynamic range, or you could say it compresses the dynamic range, right? That's what a compressor does. Vocal Rider does the same thing. I use it on pretty much every voice on every podcast I ever produce. And if it's made by Waves, and it frequently goes on sale for $29. So if you want to check it out, it's a great one. I love it. Next one, editing out distracting noises. All right, now this is pretty self-explanatory, right? If someone is talking on a podcast and all of a sudden their dog starts barking or their phone starts ringing, right? Obviously, you'd love to edit that out. Well, here's the thing. If they're not talking at the same time, then you can edit it out, because it's just going to be like, let's say it's 5 seconds of a dog barking. Well, okay, it's 5 seconds of a dog barking. You can literally clip that out and delete it. But if the person's talking and the dog is barking in the background, then you're hosed. There's not much you can do. So that's why it's great when people record in quiet environments. And by the way, the dog barking and stuff, like, you can open it in RX7 and try to do some crazy stuff, and there's some miraculous stuff you can do, but it's just kind of a pain in the butt, and it's just way easier to avoid that. So, all right, next one. The vintage tape module in iZotope Ozone 8. Okay, iZotope Ozone 8 is a mastering software that has a bunch of different modules in it, and typically used for mastering, and I actually use it on my master bus, usually on most episodes as well, or the vocal subgroup. So, but it has a vintage tape module, and again, this is a tape emulation processor, right? So it's trying to, it's as if you're going to record your podcast on a piece of tape and then play it back, and it gets all that nice tape saturation and tape warmth and all that, right? So it works pretty good. I don't use it very often, this one in Ozone 8, but it is a good one. I think lately I've been trying Kramer tape, which is a Waves plugin. But anyway, tape saturation is pretty cool. Of course, saturation itself is pretty cool. Okay, next one, podcast editors. Choose your hours. This is a big one. If you're an editor or you want to become an editor, it's really helpful if you sort of choose your hours. Meaning, when are you going to work and what times? How many hours a week are you going to dedicate to your podcast editing business? And it's really great to map it out and to identify what hours you're going to be working, in quotes, right? Because it just it helps you organize your life, because then you can work when you're supposed to be working. And then when you're not supposed to be working, you should go have fun. And the other thing too is learning how to finish the work as quickly as you can, but at the highest quality that you can. So, because you could spend 100 hours processing and editing one episode. If you wanted to, you could. I mean, that's crazy. No one would, but I'm just saying that you could, meaning you could go so crazy trying to make it perfect that it could take 100 hours. Of course, no one wants to do that, because why would you? Again, go out and have some fun with your life. But when you designate kind of what days and what hours you're going to work, it helps put your whole life in perspective, and then you can fit the work inside of those work hours. And it also helps you when you're thinking about, bringing on new clients and how many clients you can handle. It helps with all that stuff. And a lot of other things too that I haven't mentioned. So, next one. Podcast Engineering School graduates. Yes, graduates of Podcast Engineering School are in the top 1% of podcast engineers in the world in terms of audio production knowledge, strategy, and tactics. As each graduate works and practices, they quickly hone their audio skills and their critical listening capabilities. Being an elite professional opens up many opportunities in business and life. Yeah, so anyway, I just literally read that short blog post, the short daily goodie. But it's true. People who graduate Podcast Engineering School, they know more than almost anyone in podcasting about the technical aspects of audio production. And that can help you in life, in your business, and everything. All right, so the last one, frequency. Well, this is a very fundamental aspect of audio. Frequency, right? Frequency means cycles per second. That means how many times does a sound wave complete one full cycle in 1 second? Right? How many cycles per second? So frequency is, the unit of frequency is called hertz, Hz. So you've all heard that, hertz, 20 hertz, 50 hertz, 100 hertz, 10 kilohertz. Now the generally accepted standard range of audible frequencies for humans is 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. That's what human beings can hear. And of course, if you'd like to hear what some of these different frequencies sound like, I did a whole section in episode 100 of this show. I did a whole section where I sort of accentuated different parts of the frequency spectrum so you could hear what they sound like. Really pretty cool. So if you go to episode 100, I think it starts around 20 minutes in. In fact, I have it written here. It starts at 20 minutes and 37 seconds in. So if you want to go to episode 100, by the way, which is it's just a funny and awesome episode. If you want to just have some fun and, lighthearted listening, check it out. But anyway, 20 minutes and 37 seconds in, I demonstrate a lot of these frequencies. So you can hear what they are, what they sound like, and then kind of understand why some of them you kind of want to remove and some of them you want to add, right? If they're not there to begin with. So that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Next week, of course, we'll be back with an interview. I got some really awesome interviews coming up. I think Tom Kelly is next week. Tom Kelly. All right, everyone, grunt for Tom Kelly. All right. And of course, the Daily Goody episodes are every other week and the in-between weeks. And if you have a question or you need help, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help. I'm here to answer questions. If you want me to cover anything on these episodes, let me know. Give me a shout out. Go to the website, podcastengineeringschool.com. All right, rock on. Carry on with your day and sound great. Is that what I'm supposed to say? Sound great. Okay, terrific. Thank you. Adios.